Evening, everyone. Very warm welcome to our annual general meeting. It's good to see so many of you coming along this evening. Thank you for giving up your time and showing some interest in the workings of our trust. The annual general meeting is largely a reflection on events over the past year, but I know our Chief Executive will take the opportunity to talk about some of the prospective challenges that face the NHS and Northampton General in particular, some of which I suspect you're already aware of. I'd like to say a few thank yous before I hand over to Sonia. There's a lot of people that make a significant contribution to the work of our hospital that sometimes don't get the recognition that perhaps they deserve. I'd like to pay a particular thank you to our governors and the many volunteers from a range of services that make a significant contribution to the smooth running of the organisation, which is, as you know, quite a challenging task. But I also want to pay a particular thank you to the staff. The NHS is a pretty difficult environment to operate in at the best of times, but we're going through some very choppy waters at the moment in the NHS. There's a range of quite significant challenges faced by organisations like us, and our staff are astonishingly resilient in terms of how they react to that, and it never ceases to amaze me how committed they are to providing their priority, which is the best possible care for our patients. Wherever I go in the hospital and talk to staff, that's the first thing they focus on, their desire to provide a good service to their patients. So I'd like to pay a particular tribute to all of them. And it's not just about doctors and nurses, there's a whole range of people that come together to provide an effective and efficient episode of care for our patients. So I'd like to pay tribute to them. And having said that, I'll hand over to Sonia. Thank you.
Right, as Paul said, what I'm here to do today is give you a review of the year, and that year is 13-14. It's not really possible to do that without going into the next year, because actually we're halfway through it anyway. And so the comments are very much merging from one year to the next. I think the first thing to say is I can hardly believe it's a year since I stood here and talked to the annual general meeting on the day of our hospital fund day, as it was that year. It seems, in one way, only a very short time ago. The year has flown past. And another way, it seems like an age ago, because so much has happened. And I think that's probably reflective of the fact that it was my first year as substantive CEO in this hospital. The thing that people normally ask me is, am I enjoying my new job? So I've got a few comments on that. First of all, the job doesn't seem all that new, because my feet are firmly rooted in this hospital, having worked here as a doctor for 20 years. So the newness is not quite as applicable as it might be for some people. And enjoy is probably not quite the right word for a job that's as serious as this. I said goodbye to a patient at last clinic, and I've been looking after this patient for about 20 years, and he said, Chief Exec in the NHS, that's a sacrifice to the wolves. That's what I think you're doing. Now, I have to say it doesn't feel like that. There are some really great moments, there are some difficult moments, but overall I felt it's been a privilege to be able to try to improve care in this hospital. And in any acute hospital, you have the ability to be connected to things that really matter to people. And again, there's great reward in that. But most of all, the staff here have been fantastic. I think they're really good teams throughout this hospital, and I'm very grateful to them for all the support they've given me in what's been a really tricky year. So last year I spoke to you, and you won't remember it, those of you who were there, but I did speak in terms of the key challenges that we're facing. And I'm going to talk to you again in those terms, I have got a video for you to watch, a nice film, starring Debbie Needham as Chief Operating Officer and Simon Lazarus as Director of Finance, a performance he particularly enjoyed. And in this film, we're going to go through all the key facts and figures that we need to cover in an annual general meeting, and also give you a flavour of the year month by month. But before I do that, I'm going to go back to those key challenges and tell you a little bit about what we've been doing during the year and also lead into what we need to do next. So, just to remind you, there were 5 key challenges last year. The first one was about instability, instability in the external NHS in Northamptonshire and at NGH. The second one was about urgent care. Emergency pressures are in the news everywhere you go, and we're no exception. The third one was about responding appropriately to the regulatory environment, so the CQC, and we'll be talking about that. The fourth one is how do you maintain the focus on quality day in, day out when finances are really stretched? And finally, bringing all those 4 together, the challenge of planning for the future in this tricky environment. So how do we create a sustainable plan going forward that people can believe in? So the one thing I can say is that we were working on all these things last year, we're still working on them now. The central theme, I think, of what we've achieved is a much more open and transparent culture. I think everyone understands more clearly that they need to be aligned around improving quality. But having said that, we have these same issues that we had last year. So what have we done? External instability first. You will be aware that this part of the country has been the subject of many proposed reconfigurations. What that means is that people can feel very insecure about their future and about the proposal that services might need to move between hospitals. What we're doing on that front is we've been working in a more federated approach with the other hospitals around us, with our commissioners and with social care, and also with some bigger hospitals, so that we can together plan a future that doesn't see major reconfigurations, but does see improvements in quality and finance to go with it. So that's very much work in progress. Internally, last year I would have talked to you about all the different changes in the exec team. And we're working hard on that. So this year we've appointed Debbie Needham as our Chief Operating Officer. We've appointed Simon Lazarus as our Director of Finance. We've had a number of interims who've given very good service. So Mike Wilkinson as Medical Director. We currently have Jane Bradley as Director of Nursing. Our new Medical Director starts with us today, sitting in the front row. Mike Cusack, so welcome to him. And by the end of the year, we will have a substantive Director of Nursing appointed and a new Director of Governance. That will feel like a much more stable team, and they can carry forward a more stable version of our aims and values, which are to provide the best possible care in an atmosphere of respect and support and continual learning. So that has given us a little bit more of increased internal stability. Urgent care remains our big ticket item, and Debbie's going to talk to you about that specifically on the video. The pressures are enormous, and all I'm going to say now is that as we go into winter, it is essential that our partners in the healthcare system support us with this. And they have made a commitment in 2 areas. One is to help us get patients home who no longer need to be in hospital. That's the so-called delayed discharge problem. And the other is to help us turn around patients who want to come to hospital but perhaps could be cared for elsewhere. Because we have had one of the greatest increases in emergency attendances and admissions in the country, and that's been very challenging when we have a fixed bed base. The third main area is the issue of regulation. So we've had a lot of focus this year resulting from the CQC inspection. They came in January and they judged us to be a hospital in need of improvement overall. They played back to us largely the things we had already raised with them, and I think that's a good thing. And they had 3 main areas of focus, which were urgent care, governance and leadership. And those are all things we've done an enormous amount of work on during the year, and there is more work still to come. What the report did for us, it allowed us to focus more acutely on those areas. It increased the pace and grip of our work, and it also helped us to engage with staff more effectively. And it gave us leverage to remind everyone in this hospital that they have 2 duties when they come to work. One is to deliver care, and the other is to improve care. And we'll repeat that at every staff induction. And we're very much taking the line that we would like everybody to do what they can today with the resources we have, It's very easy to focus on the things that are problematic, but there is a lot that we can do currently. The other thing that the CQC noticed was that our staff were ready for the improvements that were starting to take place, that they were very caring, and they found this to be a friendly and open organisation. They raised a couple of specific issues with us at the end of the visit, both of which were addressed very rapidly, and they were impressed with that. And the other issues that they comment on were nearly all things that we had ourselves identified as in need of quality improvement in our quality account. And I think that's very important because it shows that we were mainly focusing on the right things, even if we haven't achieved a complete solution as yet. Since this report, both the Trust Development Authority, who monitor us, and the CQC and our commissioners have been impressed with the work that we've done. And at the end of the video, I'm just going to sum up what they found when they came in last week, because I think that's important. The fourth area I talked about last year was quality. How do you maintain quality while we are so stretched financially? And I think the main plank of our efforts in 13-14 was to align everything we do around quality, our operational plans, our finance, and our ambitions. The whole NHS has seen this focus, mainly as a result of a lot of negative reports. But what we're talking about here is a much more personal thing. We're trying to ensure that every member of staff understands what we mean by quality and safety, and that they can play that through in their work every day. We know it's more than measuring specific quality standards, which you're going to hear about on the video. We've got quite good results for most of the quality standards that can be measured. But actually what matters to patients is that they feel listened to and cared about on a daily basis. And what matters to staff is that they feel they can communicate effectively with patients at all times. We want our staff to feel they are providing good care. And that's a much more subtle way of looking at quality than specific measures. I think this is getting better. Last year we had whistleblowing from staff because they felt their concerns weren't being addressed. I can see that people feel that the culture is more open, and I can see that we have better formal mechanisms for raising concerns and also better informal mechanisms. But until we are at the point where every single complaint and every single incident results in some demonstrable learning, we won't have reached the point where we can be an outstanding hospital, which is, of course, where we want to be. To get to that point, we need to improve both our governance processes and our leadership, and we need to develop staff, and that's been a main thrust of our work. If you look at some of the softer things that we have achieved, I think we are better at treating vulnerable patients than we were. I think our focus on dementia has improved, and we treat patients with learning disability in a much more effective way. Those are key tests, actually, because those are difficult patients to look after well, and I can see a much improved way of responding to their needs and a much improved focus on ward leadership. We will take that further next year, but those are softer things which won't appear on a chart or a metric. The next thing is that all the improvement programs in the hospital need to be focused on quality, and we've made a commitment to that. We have a program called Making Quality Count, which we hope every department will go through. What that means is that we focus on something that needs improvement for patients, that staff feel is inefficient, and also that we feel costs money. So, for example, if you have a patient and you move them around the hospital lots of times, you will find that the patient doesn't have a good experience, their stay in hospital is longer, the staff are frustrated with multiple handover of care, we're more likely to make an error, and by the way, it costs quite a lot of additional resource. So we're taking that forward because it's our view that quality is just as much the province of the finance director as it is of the nursing director and the medical director. So that brings us on to the final challenge, which is how do you plan a sustainable future in a way that provides the right services for patients at the right level of quality in a way that also demonstrates value for the taxpayer. Internally, we can set our aims and values and we can focus on what matters to us, but we need our commissioners to agree to buy the right range of services from this hospital so that we can plan for the future. We need a business plan that sees us breaking even and generating resources so that we can borrow money to invest in estate and in equipment and in technology. And in order to get to that point, we need to work in partnership with our commissioners, but also in today's environment with other providers of healthcare. So we've set the ground for this year. The work has yet to come to fruition, but we have a much better and clearer way of moving forward, so that hopefully by the end of this year we will have at least an outline of what this hospital is going to look like in the future. That is important for our business plans, but even more importantly, it will help us to recruit high-quality staff. And that means doctors, nurses and managers. We want people to come here because they believe that there is a sustainable future, and we want our patients to understand that. So I'm now going to hand over to our video, which is thanks to our medical illustration department, who are at the back here, and our comms team, who have constructed a year at NGH. And I'm going to come back at the end just to make a few comments.
When you try your best but you don't succeed, when you get what you want but not what you need, when you feel so tired but you can't sleep, stuck in reverse, and the tears come streaming down your face, when you lose something you can't replace, when you love someone but it goes to waste, could it be worse?
People living in and around Northampton have a history of supporting this hospital, and we are grateful to each and every one of them. People from all walks of life, of all ages, have gone the extra mile to help us in so many different ways. From a young man of 8 who got on his scooter to raise more than £150 to help buy a new incubator, and nursery children who held a toddler about, to others who have walked, run, cycled, held balls and done all manner of things to raise funds. Their contribution and the support they have received means that over the past year we have been able to further enhance and improve our services so we can provide the best possible care. Among many other projects, charitable donations have helped us purchase equipment and improve a range of services, including our urology facility, our parents' room on Gossett Ward, buy a new intensive care transport incubator, special recliner chairs for Paddington Ward, a wheelchair for the day case unit, new chairs for ENT outpatients, and cooler treatment for patients undergoing chemotherapy, to name but a few. We are also grateful to everyone who is supporting our current major appeal to refurbish our chemotherapy suite. Every donation, no matter how big or how small, is valued, and we really do appreciate the effort that our fundraisers and their supporters make on our behalf.
Lights will guide you home and ignite your bones, and I will try to fix you. Too in love to let it go, but if you never try, you'll never know just what you were. Lights will
NGH Finance is an enabler of high quality patient care. During 2013-14, the board agreed business cases for substantial investments in nursing and medical equipment to ensure we provide safe, high quality care at the same time as achieving a break-even position. But the financial environment in which the NHS and NGH operates is becoming increasingly challenging. We are continuing to experience a sharply increasing demand for urgent care. At the same time, we face a requirement to make substantial efficiency savings. This is proving challenging, but despite this, we remain committed to using finance as an enabler to improving patient care and our patients' experience. We are working closely with our partners in health and social care in the county to plan for a sustainable future for the services we provide to local people and developing our clinical strategy. And within NGH, we are implementing a clinically led structure to enable us to deliver viable and high quality services in the future that are resilient to the challenges we face.
So I'm going to talk to you about our urgent care story. For several years we haven't achieved the A&E standard at Northampton General. Staff have been really quite tired, they've lacked energy. Day after day that we've failed the target, staff morale has dipped even more. For patients, we've provided really very good care, but what it has meant is that we've had very long waits in A&E on occasions. We appear to be quite different to other hospitals in terms of our activity. We've seen an enormous increase in patients attending our ED department and also then converting to admissions. We've seen people stay in for longer periods of time than other hospitals have seen. We've also seen an increase in patients presenting with dementia and an increase in patients that are frail and elderly. We've had an urgent care programme in the Trust for several years and we've made really quite good progress with that programme, but unfortunately with the increase in admissions and attenders it's just not been enough. We realised that something had to be different. Doing the same was absolutely not an option for us. So what we decided to do was invite a management consultancy in to work alongside us. And what that really did was re-energised us. We made some rapid improvements in such a short space of time. They were with us for 6 weeks. They helped us to implement programmes across health and social care. They also injected a huge amount of oxygen into the organisation and it really helped us to believe in ourselves again. So what does that mean now? Where are we at the moment? Well, we still have really bad days. We still have days where patients wait longer than we would want in the ED. But on the whole, we are performing much better than we were last year. We're now given more compliments, less complaints. ED feels much safer, calmer and much more controlled. I think there's 2 things that have really made the difference over the last few months. The first one is the introduction of a safety huddle. That's a twice daily meeting where all our nursing sisters and department heads come together and they talk about staffing, safety issues, incidents and also how that directorate will manage their bed base within that day. That's really made quite a difference. I think the other thing has been around senior focus and leadership and the accountability and ownership that has helped the whole organisation make the change. And when we have a bad day now, We have real ownership. Staff really want to make it different. They want to make it right. The cultural strength of any organisation is motivation of the staff, and we now absolutely believe that we have the drive to make a change, to enable us to be able to provide the best possible care to our patients that we possibly can.
And ignite your bones, and I will try to fix you.
So I hope you all enjoyed that. That was a bit of a change from the usual format, and I'm sure our exec stars enjoyed it. I haven't got too much more to say, you'll be quite happy to know. I just wanted to say that we've achieved a lot this year, I think, and thanks has to go to all our really hard-working staff, which Paul has already said, but I'd like to say it again, and all our friends. And our friends are our shadow governors, our volunteers, voluntary organisations, and also our commissioners who have actually supported us this year. When the CQC came in last week for their unannounced visit, they noted a lot of improvements in some specific areas. We haven't received their report yet, but they did feed back to me in a very positive way. And in particular, they noticed improvements in urgent care in A&E, and I have to say that I get compliments about A&E several times a week now, which definitely wasn't the case before. They were very impressed with the stroke pathway and thought we'd made some significant improvements there. They were very pleased to see a good analysis of the ITU standards and to see that the Trust has supported investment in that area. And they noticed improvement in the way we deal with medicines on discharge, patient moves, governance procedures, risk registers, learning from incidents, appraisal and training. And I know there's a lot more to do, and we would recognise that, but I do think staff are starting to believe that they can do it. Debbie has referred to that already, and certainly when I was working with Debbie on the urgent care programme, it was very evident that we had a real buzz from people presenting their projects because they finally felt that we could get out of the relentless cycle of failure that we were in. As we bring in the clinically led management and governance structure this year, I think that will bring further benefits. We need to have some relentless focus on quality in these challenging times. We went into this year knowing we would be in financial deficit. That has got more challenging during the year, and we, in common with many other hospitals, are very concerned about how we're going to plan for the future. I think what is certain is we will do everything possible to ensure that we do preserve, in particular, patient safety and patient experience. We will not let our financial challenges get in the way of that. I think that is something which has helped us to unite as a hospital, and we need to hold on to that thought. So I'm just going to finish there because I think the video actually tells the story. Thank you.